Hey, it's your favorite film critic, Dom Griffin. You're watching the Armchair Auteur. This is an ongoing video series I do where we talk about new movies, old movies, screenplay analysis, television series reviews, that sort of thing. So if you like movies and you like movie-adjacent popular culture and you like to see somebody pick those things apart, you're in the right place and you should consider subscribing. Happy birthday, Grimace. Disney sent me the first 2 episodes of Secret Invasion last week, and the first episode's out today, so I figured I'd talk about the show a little bit, and mainly talk about why I just fundamentally do not fuck with it on any level. As you may be aware, Secret Invasion is a 6-episode miniseries on Disney Plus following Nick Fury's return to Earth after a prolonged absence working in space. He's been told there is a Skrull insurrection, and as such, no one can be truly trusted. It's a sharp little setup for the spy-fi side of the MCU that's been neglected for much of this phase, and I thought it showed some real potential. Now, I've basically sworn off the television side of the MCU entirely. I think the last one of these shows I actually watched all the way to the end was Loki, which I mostly liked. Otherwise, I'll either watch the couple of episodes that Disney sends me as screeners and then none of the rest once it airs, or I'll just look at it hanging in my inbox and then just completely ignore it forever. But Secret Invasion, somewhat foolishly, I was kind of looking forward to. Not because of anything Feige and company have done to entice me to want to watch the show, or like the marketing materials are any good, nothing like that. I'm just a sucker for the source material that inspired this new show. The 2008 Marvel event Secret Invasion was a line-spanning crossover predicated upon one single idea: that anyone in the Marvel Universe may have at some point been replaced by a shape-shifting Skrull. The concept came out of an issue of New Avengers where Elektra, at the time the leader of the Hand, was slain only for the team to realize she was a Skrull. It made for a great cliffhanger, created a lot of interesting dramatic questions, and added new wrinkles to the ongoing conflict that arose from 2006's Civil War event between Iron Man's government-mandated Avengers and the ragtag group of guerrilla fighters working underground. Suddenly, the idea that Skrulls have invaded Earth to such a degree could be an explanation for any character's erratic behavior. Writer Brian Michael Bendis was inspired by the 1983 miniseries V, about a shape-shifting alien race that had infiltrated our world. And while it was a smart idea, the series itself left a lot to be desired, and became both convoluted and underwhelming by its climactic chapter. If you're at all interested in any of these comics, I would suggest you actually just skip Secret Invasion, like the main event book, because it's kind of lame. But if you read a lot of the New Avengers stuff leading up to it, that stuff's pretty good. And you should go out of your way to seek out, Jason Aaron wrote a Black Panther Secret Invasion tie-in, and it's just a few issues of just a lot of violence and a lot of just like badass moments and stuff. It's like one of my favorite things from like that era of Marvel. It just still rules. But as much as I complain about the MCU, they've generally been pretty good at adapting more modern Marvel stories and either like improving upon them genuinely, like genuinely doing things with them that make them suit the masses more, or at least iterating on them enough that they become their own unique little different thing. I'm not one of those sticklers for this has to go exactly the way this happened in the comics, because I've read enough comics my entire life to know a lot of them also suck. So this felt like it was going to be a moment where they could do something interesting where the original Secret Invasion kind of faltered. Just the idea of doing a grounded spy-fi series where Samuel L. Jackson can finally flex his chops as the lead, even done mediocrely, would be something I could see myself enjoying. Sam's only ever had to really try in Winter Soldier and parts of Captain Marvel. The rest of the time, he's just kind of chilling. I also foolishly thought that Emilia Clarke had been cast to play Abigail Brand from Sword, but I was wrong. She's not playing that part. I just thought she would look cool with green hair. Now, the difference between the 616 universe and the MCU is there's this big obstacle in place in actually adapting this kind of story, and that is because in Captain Marvel, the film's major reveal that the Kree were the villains and the Skrulls were essentially sympathetic refugees stood in stark contrast to the way the Skrulls are usually presented as absolute untrustworthy scoundrels. So the idea is that for this to work, we would either have to walk back that revelation or provide a new influx of actually bad Skrulls, both of which would require a major Disney production to depict immigrants as inherently duplicitous monsters waiting to literally take your place and steal your country. Not ideal. I had sort of hoped they would go kind of Black Mirror light direction instead, choosing to lean into this brave new world of artificial intelligence where generative AI models can create images and audio that call to question our very reality. The idea that Skrulls pretend to be humans aren't some foreign interloper, but rather a metaphor for how horrifying the world is in this post-truth era.
Are you guys just going to ignore Brockhampton?
No, let's get this over with now. Just go ahead and throw Saturation 3 in the A tier.
Yeah, that seems fair.
They kind of go like a different way, though, instead. Only one episode has aired this far, and I don't want to spoil anything in it, but the general gist is that the bad Skrulls took a foothold on Earth during the blip, when no one would be around to do shit about it anyway. But it wasn't just outside actors, but also the disaffected Skrulls who basically grew up on Earth, being promised a new home by Nick Fury and Captain Marvel that they never got. These Skrulls are led by Gravik, who was sort of like a terrorist leader, charismatic Magneto-type villain, who has like a tortured relationship with Nick Fury and their past and stuff. Yeah, I remember Captain Marvel takes place like 20 or 30 years ago or whatever. So the show should ideally be like exploring like how much has happened since that prequel movie into now. So Gravik is this character who leads the sect of Skrulls, and like he commands a lot of like, you know, power and interest to the cause. But it's definitely suggested that he's essentially doing terrorist attacks as a way to fuck with Fury. And the show, I assume, will delve deeper into their relationship. Gravik, who's played by Kingsley Ben-Adir, who is definitely the only actor in the history of drama to have played Malcolm X, Barack Obama, and now a Skrull. And I'm about to say some pretty negative things about the show, but I do want to preface those with positive things, which are that I think Kingsley is pretty good in this role, and I like him more than I expected to. I was not a huge fan of him in anything else I've seen him in. I always thought he was a little try-hard, but he has like kind of a quiet magnetism here that I was actually pretty impressed by. And also, Ben Mendolsohn is in this movie. He's one of the most like consistent character actors working today, and he's fantastic. Ben Mendolsohn is good in the movie. Water is wet. Like, what, you know, come on.
Do you feel in charge?
He continues to make Talos like one of the most compelling side characters of the MCU, so I'm very glad to see Mendelssohn get a paycheck. Also, if you've never seen it, keep him in Mississippi Grind, a strong drama from Anna Fleck and Ryan Bowden, who helmed Captain Marvel, that also features Ryan Reynolds acting. Like actual acting, not mugging for the camera and saying things like fuckle sticks and cunt waffles. He's great in everything, but I like that he doesn't just sleepwalk in this. He takes it like seriously. He delivers like genuinely good work. And we can't say the same about pretty much anyone else involved with this show, from a performer standpoint. Like, Olivia Colman is like charming. She seems like she's having a bit of fun, so good for her. But everybody else just sleepwalking through this entire fucking show. Now, the show's writing leaves quite a bit to be desired, as you can tell that Mr. Robot veteran Kyle Bradstreet, Secret Invasion showrunner, set out to tackle some thorny themes, and then somewhere in the writer's room remembered he had 6 episodes, a bunch of sleepy actors, and Kevin Feige breathing down his neck about a multiversal roadmap, and had to do the best he could. It doesn't help that Ali Salim, who has directed this entire show, seems to have, on purpose, tried so hard to make the visuals more dynamic that at times it feels totally laughable. Somehow worse than if it was the usual lazy coverage and blue screen interiors we'd come to accept by now. I don't know what the budget for this show is, but I do know that it just looks like an early 2000s BBC drama. For the record, any like Anglophiles out there, I mean that in a derogatory sense. There are episodes of Russell T Davies produced Doctor Who from 2005 that make this show look like Avatar: The Way of Water. Like, it's just an ugly, flat, gray thing, and I hate it. There's an introductory scene that they put up online for promo, and it is so fucking ugly and bad and stupid, right down to the It's Always Sunny conspiracy board, and Martin Freeman is just napping throughout the whole thing. The thing is, the show is sorely missing a moment as incendiary as finding out in the Marvel Universe that Elektra had been replaced by a Skrull. That was a thing that came out of like such left field. It was such a like game-changing moment that it opened up possibilities for drama all over the place. This show doesn't have a moment like that, and I feel like the show isn't even that interested in playing with the idea that anyone could be a Skrull. Characters say that, people turn to each other and go, it could be anybody, but at no point do you feel like it could be anybody. Or, more importantly, you kind of feel like if you did discover that any of these players were Skrulls, that you wouldn't care. There's no one involved who was that important or that interesting or that compelling. So the idea that someone could be a Skrull doesn't matter, because the type of people whose Skrull reveals would be exciting aren't on the show. You know, like the nature of where the MCU is right now, none of those characters that matter are around. Like, I guess you could just have Hawkeye pop up and be a Skrull, but like it would just seem like a gag at that point. Like, logistically, maybe there's going to be some fun reveal later in the show that hasn't happened yet, but this is a 6-episode miniseries, and they've shrunken the scale of the invasion to be so small and grounded to fit this television series that we know it's not going to have payoffs on a larger scale anywhere else. This is the same world where there's like a giant hand at the end of the Eternals that like no one's really commented on since. I sincerely doubt anything is going to come out of Secret Invasion that's going to affect any of the bigger movies, because we see where those movies are going, and those movies are going to a far grander scale than what if the president was a Skrull or whatever. By the second episode, I was kind of on Gravik's side, not just because I root for heels, but because he has this big bone to pick with Nick Fury, and so do I, because I also grew up idolizing Samuel L. Jackson. I think he's great. I think he can do no wrong. And yet, here he is, doing wrong. Sam Jackson delivers one of the most lifeless, least interesting, and like most blatantly lazy performances of his entire career. This is a guy who showed up in like Snakes on a Plane and took it serious, like it was a real job, actually delivered good work. He's not someone that just, I mean, people maybe say he does paycheck movies, but even in his paycheck movie roles, he's still Sam Jackson. He's still a compelling on-screen figure. First, I kind of thought, okay, well, they're trying to tell a story about a Nick Fury who has lost his step, a Nick Fury who is not who he once was, a Nick Fury who is worn down and chopped down by grief and is struggling from the blip and all this stuff. It's like a very watered-down version of what Robert Downey Jr. did in Iron Man 3, only like way, way worse, because it's like not as believable. And the reason it's not as believable is because of the way he's written. He just flips between having moments of just doing the Sam Jackson, I'm a badass, I can do anything I want thing, and like casually explaining some like complex op they're gonna do, and then other moments where he's just like, you know, well, I wasn't here, I was in space, and it just, I don't know, like he's delivering these lines with all the verve and energy of like Dante saying I'm not supposed to be here today in any of the Clerks films, but he just seems so detached and fuzzy and lost, and I don't think it's the character. I think that maybe they finally broke Sam. I mean, is it possible that the man who originally introduced us to the Avengers Initiative is also over these movies and these shows and all this stuff, and he's just here to collect some money? There's so many great Nick Fury comics in the world, and obviously the 616 version of Nick Fury is very different from Sam Jackson's version of the character, so I wouldn't expect this to be like one of those like gritty, fucked up Garth Ennis comics that deals with his like war PTSD and the Cold War and messed up stuff like that. Like, I don't expect that, but I expect that this is a storied character who has been interesting in so many different ways, and you have an actor like Sam Jackson finally getting to play him for real, not just in little side moments, like for real as the lead, and it just feels like a wasted opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, we've essentially waited 15 years now for Fury to get like the spotlight, and this is what he does with it. He just kind of mills around aimlessly. He gets his own show, and it's just this sludge. I can't imagine it getting any better. We're 2 episodes down, at least I am. I can't imagine the other 4 episodes being much better. And every time I've ever been told this, especially about a Marvel show, and I do go back and look, it never gets better. They're always just lying to you, essentially. They pulled this on me with Moon Knight. I'm just not gonna do it to myself this time. I don't think it's worth it. I don't. So I'm just gonna skip out. I mean, maybe when Loki season 2 starts up, I'll watch that all the way to the end. That show was pretty good last time. Hopefully it's still pretty good this time. But Secret Invasion, no thank you. If you're wondering if you should watch it, I don't think you should. Obviously, if you want to watch it anyway, you can. You might like it more than me. There's nothing wrong with that. But me, I'm just done. The only thing that might compel me to watch more of the show is that Christopher McDonald is playing one of the Skrulls. And if there's a moment somewhere in the show where he does a Skrull transformation, I want to see it. Because Shooter McGavin's facial structure looks more like the traditional like Jack Kirby drawn Skrulls than most of the makeup for the Skrulls of the show and these movies have been thus far. Like, he looks for real like a alien doppelganger, and I'm about that.
Big trouble though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No.
But yeah, those are my thoughts about Secret Invasion. I don't know what I expected. I don't know why I allowed myself to get tricked again. No one's perfect, but if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you love this video, consider subscribing. I have more videos like this in the future. And if you have any thoughts about the show or questions about it, if you've watched it or haven't watched it, you can ask me those in the comments below and I'll answer whenever I can. So thank you all for watching. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, being good to yourselves and each other. I'll see you next week in a brand new video. Bye.